Everybody move!
All right. Why? But why not? How are you doing today, Tim?
I'm doing very well. I'm in the pool, wading around, relaxing, maxing, and relaxing.
You look a lot more relaxed than that dude behind you. He looks, I don't know, like he has some kind of agenda up his sleeve, perhaps of a certain, leftist political organization, but maybe not.
It may also have something to do with the music album we are going to be talking about today,
Absolutely.
as well as the logo, which my hand is getting disappearing in sometimes. You look about as happy as your background too. Is there somebody hugging? What is that? What are they hugging there?
Trumpet. Chuck Mangione. It's Victoria Day in Canada on Monday, and it's a South Park joke. Anybody could go YouTube it, but everyone has to face a certain way, and play feels so good by Chuck Mangione. Even though he's from Rochester, I never got the reference, but yeah, he's happy. I'm happy, and yeah, I'm dandy.
I noticed that you also snuck in your one quota for the week Star Trek reference, being that it's your entire background.
Yeah. I got this thing a couple of years ago. There was a comic store called Alternate Realities or Alternate Realties. They closed down in 2015. They had a nice, like a 25-year run. Steve Odo was the owner. Shout out to him. And he sold me this bad boy. I just like looked at it for my entire life, and I was like, rather than be like Indiana Jones, it belongs in a museum. I'm like, fuck that, man. It belongs in my museum, my life. Nobody else gets it. Me.
It's the size of your body.
It is. I could probably sleep in it or in it.
This is our second episode of Everybody in the Pool. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Mummies on Main Street.
I am Method Mike A.
The background that you see here is, in fact, the album we're going to review. It's really an EP, and I know I'm wearing a USA shirt, but they're actually a band from Australia. Some of the things I know about Australia, I know it's a really long ass flight to get there. Obviously the Men at Work song, the Vegemite sandwich, there was a lot of wildfires there lately. I know they have a big opera house. Crocodile Dundee was another one. That's not a knife, this is a knife. Wake in Fright, that crazy 70s movie about being trapped in the outback. Some tense moments with some real life kangaroos. AC/DC's from there. The first rock shirt I ever owned was AC/DC shirt. I was in third grade. One of like the 7th or 8th graders came up to me and said, "Whoa, that's a cool shirt, little kid." And that made my day. So that's my early limited experience with Australia, but it's generally been pretty good. So, Mike.
I am freaking pumped about Australia. I am fucking pumped. I love the continent. Their music is awesome. I mean, look, I'm so excited. I'm wearing a Hiatus Coyote t-shirt. I got my AC/DC socks on. And by God, I even have a Foster's beer here ready to go. I'm pumped, ready for Australia. Woo!
That's amazing. I can't outdo that, and so let's get into it. They're run by a gentleman named Kel Mason. He was known for as one publication put it, the Garage Slime Band, Drags, who boast such songs as I think it's Ghost City, Slime Street, and Slob City.
What kind of play?
Exactly. So that's where we're going to be going to today. But this is his I guess, a newer band. It's called GT, and it's kind of after GTO, the car. Some of their first efforts, all the songs were about cars. I think the first song they recorded was something about flame decals, about, basically on a GTO type of car. So they had a very specific theme. The work that we're going to be looking into is their latest EP. It's from 2019, and it's called Chromo-Zone. And we're also going to delve just a little bit into one of their LPs. Our first episode, we delved into a lot. This album EP is 7 minutes and a few seconds. 4 out of 5 of the songs are under a minute 59. I think the longest song on here and the longest song on the album that we're just going to briefly touch on is 2 minutes and 46 seconds. So there is no filler here. The work from these guys from these two pieces is fun.
It was cool. It was overall just very lo-fi. Like it had that kind of vibe to it. It was you could listen to it. You could like get dressed while listening to it, cook while preparing your meal while listening to it, stretch while listening to it for a run. So it was to the point. It was very lo-fi intentionally. It kind of gave me. You remember when we were kids and we used to go to concerts at like Irving Plaza or Hammerstein Ballroom because we're from New York, so like those kind of venue, or even CBGBs, and in between bands, like the roadies would be setting up.
CB fucking JBs.
Yeah. That's why you made him a fucking CBGBs. That's bad inside joke. But in any event, yeah. So yeah, like they play those like early or late 70s, early 80s punk bands during while the roadies are setting up the net. And this I could see this as like in between band soundtrack that they'd be playing when the roadies were doing their thing at CBGBs or Irving Plaza or whatever. It had that vibe to it. I don't want to say as high budget as like a Wire or a Gang of Four or something like that, because those recordings were a lot more just better sounding purposely, but it had that vibe like oh, this is like so and so, so Ian McKay's first band or whatever.
I love the lo-fi stuff. I've always loved garage rock, and this is right in with that. This really could have. It sounds like it could have been from that era you're discussing, and yeah, it does definitely reminds me of some of the bands we heard when we grew up going to concerts. One thing that Kel said in an interview, he said, I guess I just wanted to make some less serious kind of music and make it easier to record everything by yourself too, because a lot of the earlier work from this band, and they haven't been around very long, I believe 2017, 2016 when they started. So he was doing all of it by himself. For the record, Kel does the vocals, guitar, bass, and synth, and then he has another gentleman named Ishka does the drums, as drums, bass, and lead guitar. At least for the recording, I know they have. I've seen some of the footage from the live band, and it looks like a 4-piece. So, but they sound great. The footage that I saw of them playing, it's them on the floor with the audience. Really is reminiscent of a lot of those, college shows. But it's such a great connection you have with the audience. A lot of like Black Flag with Rollins or Minor Threat, any Misfits, any of these bands, they're on the floor with the audience, and it's just a tremendous connection in that way. And this band seems to have that. He actually also referred to it. Maybe this is what makes it fun for me. He referred to it as Neanderthal stuff.
It is very primitive, the sound of it, just because of the way that it's recorded, and it's definitely. So I could see it for that tribal kind of polyrhythmic feel to it.
Some bands that came to mind for me: Moldy Peaches. Not many people may know who they are, but also kind of lo-fi. The Ramones, I think it has a lot of the energy of the Ramones. Also just fact that each song's so fast and literally like it's over under a minute for the most part. Jay Retard, King Kong and the Barbecue Show. It also has like a simplicity, like the chord progressions, like it's something almost like I feel like your grandma could love in a weird way. Like, it seems like a universal appeal to it. If you can get past the lo-fi sound, maybe you can't hear necessarily all the lyrics. It's got like a melody that, any of it is very accessible, I feel like.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what had a lot of the Ramones stuff kind of had. It almost harkened back to like a 50s type of thing. There's definitely an element of that to it.
I don't know much about these dudes. They're just somebody new who I learned about. Thank you for sharing it. It's always I love hearing the music and sharing, giving and taking. It's a great thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's something that really cherish, and hopefully just in general, not between us only, but everybody can
No, it's just for us. It's only for us.
Yeah, it's like the
Because
Enterprise.
once everybody else
Me,
starts
me,
listening
me,
to
me.
it, they're stealing my band, man.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, they're too mainstream now. Fuck these guys. Yeah, yeah. Exactly. No, but it's always
Going mainstream, man.
they sold out. It's always cool. And I think that's a really special thing. We talked about community and just how artists look. You introduce somebody to a band, it becomes their favorite band, and makes their life better. And I think that's really cool.
Well, I'm hoping that when all this pandemic is over, you guys can come to the USA if you ever see this, because I would definitely love to see that show. This would definitely be fun. And let's kind of get into the EP. It's pretty short, folks. As a record, on the record, it is a smoker. It's a great way to start. The album is called FBI, and it's just boom, hits you right with that impact of the keys, and just the energy is tremendous. So you got to get a lot of energy into a minute and 34 opening song. Usually you see a minute 34 as an opening track and it's like some kind of skit. But this is just like boom, right into it.
Yeah, or it's like the first like 10 the first three notes of like a Yes track, like a 17-minute odyssey that they're going to take you on with like flutes. This is like, no, this is the opposite of that. It's no filler. It's not even a 1 2 3 4, just boom, right away.
Working for the FBI, working for the FBI, working for the FBI.
Yeah, it is interesting that they picked FBI as a subject, because being from Australia and the United States, and just like where they got that influence from, and maybe it shows in a way how like American culture is so like dominant on a global scale, because it's very, I don't know what the Australian equivalent is, and maybe somebody can go tell us about that in the comments.
To be honest with you, I don't know vocally like a lot of the connections with as he said in the interview, a lot of it was just, it feels like from him saying Neanderthal stuff, it's kind of like they just kind of go with it, and this sounds good, let's fucking go with it. This EP and the LP, but especially this EP, feels the most formed together of the work that I've heard from them. I listened to most of their other catalog. This EP is like perfect for me. So FBI, great opening track.
Yeah, and I think like the keyboard too, a lot of what's cool about this is you have standard punk, and there are various points when there are other instruments in punk, whether it's violins or punk ska, but the keyboards really play a very important part on this EP, and just in general their sound, and it's cool. So it gives them a little bit more color and just a little bit more like flavors and spices than just the average bass guitar, drums.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and that's a great point. It reminded me of the Stranglers in that respect, like very much, because it's such an integral part. Because there's a couple of the other releases where there's no keys on it, and there's still like a good energy, but this really, man, if this is their latest release, it shows like great things to come. Like they're like really, you can see that. I love when you can see a band's progression as the releases come out. It's exciting, man, because you're like excited for them. And to your point earlier, I love this music that I can play before I'm gonna go for a run or go for a workout that I need to get mentally pumped up for. And I found myself playing this the past few days, just like, oh, I'm gonna go for a run. Hold on, let me go listen to Chroma-Zone, that EP, from GT. So, yeah.
It's just really, before we get to the next track, what's really interesting, it's been I don't want to say grinding my gears, but just like I've been noticing this since you had the background up. Their symbol, it's totally Public Image Limited, man. You're like, holy shit, that looks exactly.
I was waiting for you to notice that. I didn't want to say it. I was like, Mike's definitely going to notice this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's clearly a nod to Public Image Limited, the John Lydon, Johnny Rotten.
Yeah, no. Yeah, all those guys, John Wobble and Keith Levine and Martin Atkins and all. That's a whole. Maybe one day we'll get to Pill.
Track 2. Now I don't know if this one's called Pigs in the Pit. I don't know if it's also a reference to some kind of FBI type thing, because there is that slur. So I don't know if that's playing on that. Again, we're not going to get too much into the lyrics here because we're not too sure. And again, I don't think there is, in a good way, not too much thought put into this. It's this song. This music is about the energy, and if you see the live show, You can look up the clips. You know, that's what it's about. This is like a good sort of anecdote to maybe like the heightened energy of the first one. And it's got, you know, like some of their songs, they're not just all like in your face punk. You know, they're, like you said, the keys really do make a difference and allow for, you know, different feels throughout. So this was a great, like, kind of bring down from that first one, and then a lead into my favorite track on the album, which is the third track. To me, is the centerpiece of the whole thing, and literally is the center as the third song.
Just in terms of number two, so when I first heard it, it was a lot more punk. Like the first track, FBI, is very like new wavy, very, that early '80s type thing. Track two, definitely, like, I thought like the English punk vibe, and a band that like just stood out to me right away was the Buzzcocks, and which is kind of cool. Actually, in that interview you sent me, where Kel, I think is his name, or what was it, Kel or Keenan, or Keenan and Kel, or no,
No, that's shit. I keep forgetting. Kel.
yeah, Cal, yeah, Keenan, yeah, the Nickelodeon.
Kel Mason, yeah.
Yeah, Nickelodeon dude. No, the Kel Mason. So when I heard, I'm like, oh, Buzzcocks. And then when you gave me the interview, I wanted to know a little bit more about what this dude is about. And he actually referenced the Buzzcocks. And it was kind of like nice because you have those moments in life when you have observation, you're analyzing something and you think you know what's up, and everybody else, or just in general, thinks you're crazy. But I'm like, oh, Buzzcocks? So maybe I'm not as crazy as I think I am, or as they tell me I am. But it was nice to the Buzzcocks. And yeah, just,
you're still crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it was cool that like he actually referenced the Buzzcocks in that. Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, clearly with the referencing the Buzzcocks and the Public Image Limited, there's like a lot of throwback and like just, you know, in a really nice way of giving dap to some of the older bands that came first. So I hear about like maybe 10 songs a year that I'm like, I have to keep replaying that. And this third track, Chroma-Zone, it's just spot on with that. It's the centerpiece of the album again, and just having it like right in the center is perfect. For me, 1, 3, and 5 are like the top tracks on this, but the 2 and 4 are also good. So it's like, it's perfect, like, way to listen to an album for me.
It's funny you mention that because I felt 2 and 4 are a little bit more of the straight ahead English punk rock type sound to them, and 1, 3, and 5 are more 1 and 3 are more, have more new wave influences, while 5 is like the masterpiece, or the one I like the most that we'll get into. But, so they definitely, it's cool. On one hand, if you hear it, it's very energetic and it's quick and you can process it and kind of like gets you in a good mood. But also to go back and start really diving deep into it and seeing, okay, cool, this one emphasizes keyboards more. This one's going for that late 70s punk rock thing. This one is so there's a lot of like callbacks or a lot of tributes or homages to various things, like even the title track, which like that drum intro, I thought like old school Bad Brains right there. Okay, this could have been on like Rock for Light or the ROIR sessions or Band in DC. That like drum sounds exactly like Bad Brains, but also to have like that beat and like the clapping, that like that you know.
Yes, yeah, I know. That was another thing that reminded me of the Ramones.
Like I think they did a nice job with it on the third track and the title track. It is very campy and hammy at this point, where I equated, you know, like if you're a lyricist in rock, never rhyme school and full anymore, or star and far, it's been done. if you're an MC, don't reference Halle Berry, it's been beaten to death. And like the clapping thing, I think.
Oh God, and also Ike Turner. You can't enough with the Ike Turner slapping Tina. I mean, it's like I've heard 10 rappers use that line.
Yeah, it's cliche at this. So, but the clapping thing also is something that I think is a little bit overused, and hammy, but they managed to make it work in the title track. And I think well done for putting it in there. And Kel and Ishtar.
Well, that's the interesting thing about this review is we're pretty new to these guys. So
yeah.
Ishka.
Ishka. Okay, I'm thinking like that movie
Ishka,
Ishtar.
yeah,
Yeah,
Ishtar did not
yeah.
record the drums, bass, and lead guitar for this. That would have been a little more interesting.
Hey, if they
Yeah.
ever got, I mean, Warren Beatty already rapped for a full movie, so if they could have got him to scream a little bit for a punky, why not?
Maybe, you never know.
Yeah,
If they come to the U.S., you gotta get Warren Beatty hooked up with GT. Man.
yeah. Well, you know, Warren Beatty was in a Bulworth movie with Halle Berry, so maybe Warren Beatty could rap about Halle Berry in this thing while the clap goes on, so he could like undo the.
No method, Mike A. Yeah,
No.
but so well, so the only thing I'll say about I don't know the name of the track. I'm a little, I don't know. I'm curious about Bret Michaels' Blowout. I'm guessing that refers to his hairdo in the '80s.
It would have been funny if it was like cock rock or hair metal, just out of like mockery or just to go with that style. But they went the other way. Like it sounded to me like the keyboards were very like drunk and kind of prevalent on this, and it sounded nothing. There's this English post-punk group called Magazine, which I love, and like if you listen to Faith No More, a lot of the keyboards were very influenced by that. The band was a very keyboard influenced band, and also this group Chrome from San Francisco, who just did crazy stuff with recording techniques and keyboards. And the keyboards reminded me of a Chrome record that you would hear here. It was like it was a cool track. I liked that the keyboards were just very layered, and they didn't overpower the track, but they were just like they were disturbing enough to make it interesting to me.
Okay, last track was Commando. This is the longest track on the album at a whopping 2:46.
Yeah. Yo, before I talk more in depth about it, you know that bass intro gave me a hard on, man. You know, I heard it. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
So yes, Mike is a bassist. We should point that out. A very well-trained bassist.
Thank you.
How many? Forever? What? 30 years now?
Something like that. Back, we could do the math. Back in the midnight, back during like around like 94, 95 is when I started, and heard Big Empty by STP, and I got to pick up the bass. But yeah,
Cool. Yeah.
yeah. The other thing about this track kind of this had like a new wave, like that intro to besides the bass. I heard it, and my first thought, and this is kind of strange, I was ready any second for Fred Schneider to come in and be like, "I'm gonna reach for the beach as we are the Commando," and then you hear like a Cindy Wilson and
Boys in bikinis, girls on surfboards.
exactly, and then at any point, hear like Cindy Wilson and Kate Pearson, "Commando, we're gonna do the Commando," or whatever beef. It just a little bit reminded me of the B-52s, but not as quirky. Like once it got into it, it wasn't as quirky. But I really like this track. I love the. It's my favorite. Maybe it's because it's the longest and there are a lot of layers and the arrangement, and where the guitar and the singer were kind of dueling almost. Like there was a lot of stop start, and that creates a very interesting sound dynamic.
Each one of these tracks has gotten in my head at a certain point,
Mm-hmm.
and I did find that with this one as well. Because after Chromosome was the one. Chromosome Zone was the one that stood out to me the most, and still does. But when you have a good album or EP that's 7-something minutes, you'll find that you listen to it over and over and over, and which is easy to do when it's a 7-minute thing. I've found every single time I've listened to this, I've listened to it again. So it's basically a 14-minute album for me.
The punk bands that we grew up listening to, they talk about buying like 7 inches, or when like the Misfits were putting out 7 inches back in the day, and people were in the scene were collecting that. So this in a way almost feels like that throwback where it's only 5 tracks and technology's a lot different and it's easier to record now. Look, we're recording this thing on our computer, so on and so forth. And back in the day,
And it looks so professional.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, high budget. But no, so like people really had records. They had 45s and singles back then, and that's they kind of relied on for a bit. And bands would like punk bands would do that more in like batches as opposed to more individually. They go into the studio for like 3 hours, record a single, and that would be it for 3 or 4 months, and then they record another single, and they just pass it out in grassroots at their shows. And that's kind of what this almost feels like, a throwback to that, along with the lo-fi sound and the garage rock kind of vibe to it.
I like how they sell this on cassette tape. which is sold out, by the way. All the stuff they've pretty much sold physically is sold out on Bandcamp. And I did like how they put in "blow your tape player up with this bad boy" in reference to this cassette,
Yeah.
which is perfect caption for what this EP is all about. Quickly, we're going to touch on the LP.
Okay.
It's called ST, and I think you're right. It probably is stand for self-titled. We're not going to break it down by track, but this one's also available on their Bandcamp. This
Yeah.
one is 12 songs, and it clocks in at 19 minutes and 3 seconds. Some of the standout tracks to me were the first track, "Living in the Future." Actually, the first like 4 tracks or so are like pretty top notch. And then I think the best song on it is "Cops and Robbers."
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that one from hearing it, but it's a very similar vocal effects to, you ever hear the band Dirty Beaches?
A little bit, not vaguely
Yeah, it's
familiar.
really like one guy as well, but I love that vocal effects, and they were clearly experimenting. It's definitely it's good LP. It's got the same type of energy and the same type of, kind of experimenting in those keyboard sounds that I really love. Definitely worth checking out. I purposely picked the EP to do just because I feel like it's like boom, boom, 7 minutes, boom. This is a great lead into this band.
I liked Hot Rod Juice a lot, which is funny because that's the track that Kel said was the hardest to play live, and so there you go. Exhaust Sniffer also is keeping with the car tracks, and I did like Cops and Robbers a lot. I think I like that vocal style he's doing, and I think he could do a lot more with that in the future. It's not exactly like Lux Interior from the Cramps, but it's kind of leaning. It's kind of
Yeah, definitely, I can see
going
that.
in that direction. I think maybe trying that more down the line when hopefully these guys are working on something right now and either getting it ready for later in the year or the post-COVID world. And yeah, so there's some there's some bangers on here, as the kids would say, and some cool tracks and some good stuff to throw in a workout mix or just enjoyable.
I think he called them smokers. There's some
Smokers.
smokers on here. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I know.
I'm using that one from now on.
Yeah, I know in like the industry, there's like certain tracks and even playing in bands, and maybe you heard it playing in bands growing up, like the Mover, the Shaker, the Crier, all these like names that they have aliases for tracks. It's like music industry talk. As we've learned, every industry has kind of their own catchphrases and inside language, and so yeah, so smokers, bangers.
Ask you too. So the picture
Yeah.
of this is the album, the EP album cover. There's been a number of bands lately doing the mask thing. Didn't look like, so they had a couple of earlier videos where they're not wearing the mask, but this seems to be kind of like in a way a good gimmick, so it'll help them stand out. But it actually kind of fits in with the coronavirus stuff too, oddly enough.
The only thing I'm a little concerned about, and like I was kind of joking at the very beginning, is that it may not be the best idea to be wearing a white mask because I'm not saying, because certain people could misinterpret that as being affiliated with certain really like horrible groups that originated in the South post Civil War. So
Really? Is
I
that
mean,
a thing with ski masks?
I'm just saying, like, it could look like from far away, like you see it at first glance, you're like, what the fuck? Because this is my Ku Klux
I
Klan dude
don't know,
like
man.
that.
That's a pointy hat, man. That's
Fair enough.
pretty.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
You know what? I didn't even think of that. I did not even think of that angle.
I'm not saying he
While
is.
it's like sitting right behind me, but yeah,
Yeah.
no, I didn't. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't even think it's specifically that color because like the show they were wearing different colored ones. So.
Yeah. It just.
Is it like laces on combat boots? Because I didn't know that was a thing. I had gotten these boots. They were actually the USA Olympic team boots from the Winter Olympics, and they had red laces. And then I was told, oh, that means this or that means that. I didn't know there was a friggin' color structure amongst punks for, white means this, and this means straight edge, and this means you hate this one group of people, and this means you hate all groups of people. Is that a thing still, or?
I honestly don't really know, to tell you the truth. in terms there's something for everything, and you can really, if you want to really dig deep and look at it, and everything can have a double entendre or a meaning or something negative. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I would say that has nothing to do with,
Oh yeah, yeah, right on.
yeah.
It reminds me more of well, our friends who we mentioned prior, like the locusts, them wearing those crazy locust masks, and also Brian Chippendale from Lightning Bolt, when he used to wear that crazy, like that, like it was almost like a ski mask, and he'd put the microphone in and do that crazy like drumming, and back in the day, and he's still doing it. And
Um,
No Bunny.
yes. Okay. Yeah. There. Yeah. So I guess it is a pretty like, yeah. It's become more prevalent, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm just curious because I feel like I'd seen it more
yeah,
recently.
sounds good.
Okay, so I think that's pretty much the album reviews for this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any parting thoughts from you, Mr. Method Mike?
I actually just wanted to talk about something contemporary that's going on right now for the last couple of not going the whole rant about it. It's I go on social media and everybody's talking about, we're big sports fans, of course. If you're from New York, you kind of have to be a sports fan, even if you're not a sports fan. Same thing with Boston, but we actually are legit sports fans. And everyone's like, "Oh, The Last Dance is the greatest documentary ever. Oh, The Last Dance." And I'm just like, no, man, I'm not gonna watch it. Look, I love Michael Jordan. I own a Space Jam Michael Jordan jersey. He was great. He's one of the top 3 athletes of all time. But like, why? People, especially like Knicks fans, and you're a much bigger Knicks fan than I am. But why? If you're like a Utah Jazz or a Portland Trailblazers or a Phoenix Sun or a Philadelphia 76ers or a Knicks fan, why do you want to watch it? Why are you being so sentimental about it? He was the fucking heel, man. Like, all those players who were awesome: Patrick Ewing, Jeff Hornacek, Charles Barkley, Clyde Drexler, all those guys, Karl Malone, John Stockton. They didn't win a title because of Jordan stole it from him, and it proves his greatness in all fairness. But don't be sentimental. Oh, it was the last time the band broke up. It's like no, man. He was the freaking heel. He was the
Uh,
heel in all of this, and now
so
it's good to go back and respect him. But no, man, don't get sentimental. There have been so many other teams who had dynasties that broke up, whether it's the A's or the Reds in baseball in the '70s, the Canadians or the Islanders or the Oilers, or the Yankees in baseball, and they didn't have this whole like documentary like, oh, the band's breaking up. It's like, who gives a shit? Like, whatever. Jordan had his time. Phil Jackson won more championships. They all made a lot of money and were really good for a long time. Who cares that they broke up? It was bound to happen anyway. It's called life.
Dude, all right. So I am a big Knicks fan,
Yeah,
and I totally disagree with you.
go for it.
And I'm a Knicks fan, and I had to, rewatch some of these scenes where he's just dominating us in the playoffs, and we're never getting past him. The one year we beat the Bulls is, of course, the one year he was off playing baseball. So it's heartbreaking in a way to watch, but Michael Jordan is the one who got me into basketball in the first place.
Okay.
So for me, that's a no-brainer. Is he's bigger than the game, man. And when you watch, I've been watching it because there's no sports to watch. Like you said, we grew up in New York. We're huge sports fans here. And there's been nothing to watch. And this being on has been like a godsend for me because I love that era of basketball too, that 90s. That's when I grew up. So a lot of it's nostalgic, even if it's tough to watch. He was so good that it outweighs for me having to watch him beat certain teams that I might have liked. Because he was that good and he was that determined, like just the willpower that he showed on just like an individual level, and to get his teammates, to rise to that level. Some of the stuff he had to do, some of the ways he had to act, definitely would be termed a heel. But you know what? It worked, and that's what they even say. A lot of the guys are like, "Hey, you know what? He was an asshole to play with, and he was a real jerk in practice. But guess what? We won 6 championships together with him." So I just think he was bigger than the game, and almost like a Babe Ruth type of, in baseball. And also just like you see some of the stuff he went through, like his father dying,
Oh,
and just like the way he was able to come back from that, and just also the emotion. The last episode that they showed, he was just crying, just bawling on the floor, like by himself after they won one of the championships. And it just that release of emotion. Like, this is a guy who's like a hard ass. He's a son of a bitch to play with. He will task you on every single thing, but it's because he cared, man. He cared so much, and you see that when he's crying on the floor by himself. That's everything you want out of a player. You don't get that out of 99% of players. And to see this guy do that and overcome all the stuff he had to overcome, especially the stuff with his dad getting murdered,
sure.
man. I mean, Jesus. I mean,
Tragic.
and to come back and win 3 championships after that, and just, I mean, it's like it's an amazing story, really. Just some of the stuff he had to overcome. Was he a dick? Yeah, definitely. Could he have done certain things different? Sure, but I don't think he would have been who he was, and so I think he's bigger than the game. And I think his story is tremendous, and his willpower is a great example. That's where I come from. And I love Patrick Ewing and Charles Oakley and all the Knicks, but yeah, it's MJ, dude.
It's fair. I'm just not gonna. I personally have zero interest in watching it, and as I said, he's one of the top 2-3 greatest athletes. I say in the top 2 of all. Like, he transcended. He was as big as Michael Jackson. What wasn't like he was that big. Like, he just transcended his craft. He was everywhere, whether it's sneakers or cartoons or underwear or food or whatever. He was everywhere. He won at every single level, and he was amazing. It's just like, I don't want to because I went through a lot of that watching it, and kind of the heartbreak here, and also all those other players who I love too. Not that they don't have a ring, and so for me, it's like, all right, I saw it, I experienced it, I lived it. I've heard Billy Corgan tell Dennis Rodman in Vegas stories, and I just don't need to see this. Even like what do you call it? Like you take hockey, like Sidney Crosby. He's whatever. I know I've heard he's a great guy off the ice. He is, but I just really don't want to watch like a day in the life of him. Like, I just have no. He doesn't play for my team. And I wish him a very long and fruitful life. Live till you're 120, but fuck him right now. So, and that's basically it. Maybe I was a fan.
The thing about Jordan is, though, like, he is not cookie cutter. Jordan, like, doesn't give a fuck, man. Like, Jordan will, like, it's for me, it's hilarious to watch it, because Jordan is dropping F-bombs left and right. Like, you really seeing how he talked to his, like, fellow players, and he's just unabashedly being open, whereas maybe back in like the late 80s when he was doing like Be Like Mike commercials, he had to be a little more guarded. I love seeing how he really is, and it makes so much more sense now when you see it, because you realize this is the way he is like how he became great. And so it's opening a whole new door. I mean, we all kind of knew it after a while, like, oh, he was kind of a dick, but now you're really seeing, in a good way, though. And you need that sometimes. And so getting to see him just drop F-bombs all over ESPN is just hilarious for me. I appreciate the candidness that he shows. He doesn't have to be that way, but is it also a good business move for him? I'm sure it is. I'm sure he's obviously he's somehow become the biggest sports guy all over again, and he's not even playing. So just goes to show you how big of a mark he made.
Right on.
Again, I'm Mummies on Main Street. You can find me on Instagram. And my man here,
I am Method Mike A at Instagram. And until next time, we are now going to leave the pool. Be good, be healthy, and be kind to everybody. And until next time.